It's a diet that's been around since 500 BC, but some people say it's a fad today. Plus, a pizza party with almost zero net carbs. The science of it all, today on Straight Talk About Smart Food.
This is Straight Talk About Smart Food, a podcast about that fascinating place where food and science intersect.
Welcome to Straight Talk About Smart Food. I am Sarah Gudkowski-Fisher. I am the Food Technology Manager here at MGP Ingredients, and I am here today with...
I'm Jen Dunn Carlson, the Senior Scientist here at MGP.
And Yvette Hirang, I'm the Culinary Innovations Manager and R&D Chef. And Sarah, we're in an actual pod. This is awesome.
3 peas in a pod.
Man, they built it really fast, too. Went up like lightning.
Yeah, it's amazing. Just the setup that they have here in our lobby of our tech center.
In the lobby.
In the heart of Atchison, Kansas. Yes.
It's pretty cool.
It is an awesome setup. I love it.
I feel like I'm in space.
Right?
Oh, right.
So we will be here having some podcast discussions, and we are food scientists and chef as well, talking to food scientists and other people passionate about food and food topics. So we just want to encourage more conversations about food and those trends and what's happening out there and all the questions that we hear about a lot. So one of the questions we hear of is keto. And is keto a fad? How do you make keto products? Is it possible? Is it possible to make keto products that don't taste like cardboard? So we are here to solve all of those problems. What is keto?
What is it? Yeah, I mean, explain it to me. Because I'm pretty sure it's more complicated than what we hear.
I think it's faceted, right? So, like, the term ketogenic always came from that diet that was for like children with epilepsy, right? And it's mostly about getting the bulk of your calories from fat, actually. Like true ketogenic diet, as it was defined medically, is like 70% of your calories from fat, and then only 5 or 10% from traditional carb sources, and then the rest in protein. I don't think that's exactly how it's played out in modern trends, or like the trend of keto. I think that term encompasses more like the general reduction of carbs in your diet.
What is the difference between low carb and a keto diet, or are they the same?
There are different types of keto diets. So they have a traditional keto diet, keto 2.0, lazy keto. So there's, right, exactly. So whatever type of keto you want to do, you can do it. So a lot of times people have started it because they're looking for that higher protein and lower net carbs. Yeah.
So how do you lower the carbs, the net carbs? Just not, I know you just cut down on the bread or the pizza crust or the sandwich, but what other ways? How do you really lower the net carb for the keto diet? I want to learn.
Sure. I mean, not a doctor, not medical advice, right? So, but I
trust you.
Yeah, but
You're
I
an
mean,
expert.
like, I think when you talk about lowering carbs, right, you're talking digestible carbs, things that are broken down easily into glucose, right? Which, so when you talk about ketogenic and lowering net carbs, you're talking about increasing fiber content or other things that are not traditionally digested as a carb.
And fiber is good for your gut, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yes. Yeah, lots of beneficial results that we've also seen from fiber in the diet. And really, everybody needs more fiber in their diet.
Most Americans don't get enough, right?
Yes. So sometimes as food scientists, we're tasked with these types of projects, making these lower net carbs, higher fiber products. And especially for us in the bakery industry, sometimes it can be kind of daunting.
Oh, yes, because I love my bread.
Yes.
And like sometimes when your doctor tells you, you need to cut down on your carbs, I'm like, no, where's my bread? I want my bread. I get my energy from bread. So will you get your energy from if you're cutting down on the carbs? I've tried the diet. Yeah, it's supposed to be a secret, but I've tried it. Man, it wreaked havoc in my body. But I'm pretty sure there's a right way of doing it. And like you said, there's different types of keto diets now. It's like which ones?
Well, and low carb has, longer lines than just keto in the modern context, right? You look all the way back to like, what is it, Olympians, Romans, one of those athletic groups in the ancient days. They had lower carb diets that was supposed to help them fight, and I think really it was for building muscle. But you look throughout history, even like more modern, you see like the Atkins diet. I think that kind of was like keto done wrong. Like,
when did that come out? I remember it came out, 10, 15 years ago?
Yeah, it was like late, like 90s and aughts, I think, were right in there.
So was that the start of this trend?
I think it was an iteration of it.
So let's back up again to where it really started. So it seems like back in 500 BC, some individuals were doing this keto diet to help treat epilepsy. And that is really the true meaning of keto. That's who it's mainly for. Of course, there's other individuals that have found that it also helps them as well. And always great to consult your doctor on your diet, especially when you're having your body go through this ketosis. We'll touch on that a little later. But
that sounds scary.
Yeah.
Ketosis.
So anyways,
it's a natural process.
Yeah, 500 BC to treat epilepsy, then 776 BC was for the Greek Olympians. So they were trying to have this super high protein diet to really help them when they're Olympians.
Right, bulk up.
So now that you mentioned that, like, are there a lot of fitness fanatics, athletes that get on the keto diet? I mean, like, you're cutting carbs. Is that just for losing weight, or does it also benefit other people?
Like, hot take, I think it's about balancing, right? So, like, I think ketogenic diet can be for some people, right? There are studies that have shown that it's good for epilepsy, right? Specifically in children. But I don't think someone who has like blood sugar control, again, not a doctor, not medical advice, but people with type 2 diabetes, they have trouble controlling their blood sugar naturally. And so when you throw your body into ketosis, it builds a lot of acid in your body. And I don't think that, like, personally, my opinion is that you shouldn't throw your body into ketosis like that. Not long term, right? Not long term, because you can have complications.
So if I go to the grocery store and I go to like one specific aisle and I see all these keto tortillas, keto breads, like, what do you guys think about that? Some of it are like, I'll buy it once, but I won't buy it again.
And that's really the thing, because taste is key, the taste and the texture. Because going back to where it is tough to have to basically take out all of the flour from a baked good and then replace it with something that is high in protein and low in net carbs. So when we think about that, I'm thinking about, okay, what is the main functionality of the flour? So it's about 70% starch. And then you have 20% protein, and then some ash, some moisture, that type of thing, some lipids. Yeah. And so then, at least when I look at making a keto product, then I'm replacing that majority of the flour, the starch, with fiber sim. So this is a dietary fiber. So that helps out with getting those low net carbs.
Because you need the fiber in there to lower the net carb.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Well, you also need something that can act as that bulking agent.
Bulking, structure. Right.
That can be the main thing. Like when, bread is primarily flour. So.
Right. And then so now that we have this structure, we have to stabilize the structure. So that's where gluten comes in. So we have wheat protein isolates like Arise. And so then that's going to actually stabilize the structure. So it helps out with that viscoelasticity. I know more of a
Ooh.
science term.
Okay, you lost me there.
No.
So we have that extensible nature and then also the elastic nature. So the gliadin-like is the extensible and then the glutenin is then the elastic. So it's super important in a lot of those baked goods.
It sounds so not really simple, but it sounds really doable.
Yes.
But how come we don't have the same quality of keto products out there? I'm still I'm looking for that perfect keto hoagie that I can eat every day.
Well, I actually have some upstairs that I can show you later.
Okay.
It
Hoagie?
takes
Is it
a lot
a-
of trials. Yeah, right, exactly. It takes time. It takes collaboration with other scientists. It can be a challenge at the beginning, but it's trying to find that right ratio of all those ingredients together. Yeah. So thank you for the assignment for a hoagie.
That's
That
where
would be
your
delicious.
expertise
Yes.
come in.
Uh-huh.
I'm just here to try it out, eat it,
Yeah. Well,
and figure out what filling to put in that sandwich.
you've seen it improve a lot, right? When you think about like the high fiber breads, which in the 90s, which were really more reduction in carbs than like the full keto we're seeing now.
Mhm.
They would go stale really fast. They would get
Yeah,
the crumb
exactly.
structure wasn't that good.
Mhm.
Like Sarah, you've probably seen some of those ones where it's just like you're either eating a styrofoam chip or it's like super chewy and dry.
Right. Yeah. So some of the food products that I've made that are keto or keto friendly, like a pizza crust has just 2 grams of net carbs. Can you believe it?
Ooh, I want to try that.
Do you want to try it?
Do you have some?
Yeah, I made some this morning.
Okay.
Okay, let's try it. So we have keto pizza crust here, and I just did a light sauce and cheese on top.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and it's the pizza crust is 2 grams of net carbs.
What?
So,
2 grams?
2 grams, only 2 grams of
That's
net
impressive,
carbs.
right?
Okay.
Right. You know,
this
the
is
limit
going in my
is-
car.
Yeah.
Well, the limit is it's not an established limit like FDA rules, but it's 5, right? 5 net carbs tends to be that like anything above that is not keto.
It's the standard. It does seem like that. People are trying to go lower,
Mhm.
5 or under
Yeah.
for keto friendly.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Let's try it out.
Doesn't taste like keto. I'm like, I don't feel guilty eating pizza now. It's really good.
I'm so glad it's not actually like that dry, chewy, because I find that cardboardy texture is like one of those things that's like, oh man, when it's bad, it's bad.
Who wants to eat cardboard?
No one I know.
And also, I like to hear that little bit of crunch too.
Yeah.
There is. Oh my gosh. Like, I've tried some, like, when you talked about stale, you just bought it. You just opened the bag, and it already smells stale.
I
But
hate that.
this is good job, Sarah.
Yeah, thank you.
Jeez, can you make it again tomorrow?
Yes, I can. I actually, made a bunch of extras, put in the freezer, so it works out through shelf life too. If you wanted
Oh,
a
excellent.
frozen
Yeah.
pizza crust.
Oh,
Right.
cool.
And so the other things that I look at is, I guess, the volume of any type of baked product that is keto friendly, the cell structure, and how for pizza, is it taking up that oil too much? Is it getting soggy?
Look at that.
Brownie?
See?
Yeah. I did put a lot of oil and cheese on it. We're doing keto here, the high fat. So
High fat.
I did not skimp on the cheese and oil.
I appreciate that. You do kind of have to be careful though. Like I find that that's kind of where keto goes wrong is when people, they think that, oh, I can eat all the fat I want, so I'm going to get all my fat from bacon, right? Like you just nothing but lard. Like that's really good for you. And
Don't
it's,
hate on
it's
my
really
bacon.
not. Right? I mean, you can have bacon, don't get me wrong. But I feel like it's that everything in moderation. I think that's like even when you look at other diets that are more carb conscious, right? Like the Mediterranean diet's super popular too, and it's lower carb than like a traditional American diet, right? Where you still have a lot more vegetables. The framework of that diet, right, is you're pushing vegetables, beans, things like that. They still things that have that higher fiber content that help you get through that naturally. But they also focus really on healthy fats. Whereas like the Atkins diet in the 90s really focused on just fat in general and that ketosis as a mechanism versus the quality of the nutrition you're getting.
So I read somewhere about the keto flu.
Yeah.
So it gives you, the symptoms are like dizziness, I'm sorry, we're eating, gastrointestinal issues, constipation. It's all sorts of like issues that come up when your body is not really accepting the diet. I mean, the side effects, it's, for me, it's scary, but like what you said, everything's in moderation. Like what else are like the bad effects of being on a keto diet?
So let's first back up and explain what the keto or ketosis is. So then, since they don't have those carbohydrates and sugars or carbs that are converting into sugars that your body is using for energy, now it's resorting to those proteins and the fats. So that's going through that ketosis where it's using the proteins and the fats as energy. And so when your body is going through these big changes, it's used to using carbs and sugars for energy. Now it doesn't have that.
It's not there.
Right. So your body is a little confused. It's trying to figure things out. Again, I'm not a doctor either, but
I just trust the internet too much.
And so your body has to get used to that. So that's where some individuals do go through that keto flu.
Yeah, like some of it I saw there's like fatigue, over fatigue, you don't have energy. And you have nausea, vomiting. I was like, that's not really good for you.
Yeah.
Your body's telling you something.
I think the transition, right? Like when you switch over into ketosis, it's a slower mechanism pathway for breaking down for energy, right? Your body is really efficient at breaking down glycogen in the liver, or it's really efficient at turning easy carbs into ATP, right, that your muscles use. Versus like the ketosis, right, it's a different pathway and it's a slower breakdown mechanism, that breakdown of fat. That's why you also get an acid buildup in your body, because that ketosis produces more acid.
Ooh, and cholesterol. There was like studies that there's an increase like.
Yeah, I think that goes back to like that bacon versus, like olive oil sort of argument, right? That fat argument. Whereas if you're gonna try and introduce this higher fat diet, especially if you're doing it like in that realm of like true ketogenic diet where it's like 70% from fat versus just like a lower carb, I think that you have to be really conscious that you're getting your fats from healthier sources, like your nuts, your olives, things like that, and incorporating a lot of vegetables and fiber too. Fiber, right? Lots of fiber.
Okay. Fiber is key.
Right, to help with at least some of the digestive discomfort.
So I'll say goodbye to my bacon.
Reduce the bacon. You don't have to say goodbye. Just reduce.
My candied bacon. That's the only way I will eat bacon. It's candied bacon. But anyway.
So we were talking about, right, the keto diet. We brought up Mediterranean diet. Keto or goes back to 500 BC. So I guess I want to hear what you guys think about. Is this a fad? Is this a trend? Do you think it's here to stay?
I did my homework on that. So you know how like there are like questionnaire surveys in like women's magazines? We're going to answer one of those, but it's not from Vogue or Glamour. Okay. Humor me a little bit. So this is from a market research company. They did a survey to determine if a food item or a diet or anything under the sun is a fad or a trend. So we have to answer 4 questions with a yes or no. Okay. Number 1, does the keto diet address a consumer truth?
What's a consumer truth?
I guess a consumer need. Is it for healthy purposes,
It's like
for
that sounds-
nutrition purposes?
Sure.
So that's a yes. Ding ding, 1 for yes. Number 2, is it enabled by new technology?
I mean, I think it's improved with new technology.
Improved. So that's another yes.
Mhm.
2 for yes, ding ding. Number 3, did it appear organically?
Yeah.
I think it did.
I mean, if you're talking the Olympians tried it, it's an organic thing. Yeah.
So 3 yeses. And number 4, is it adaptable, versatile, or generative? It is
Yeah.
adaptable.
There's so many
Yeah.
different, like, 2.0 versions, right?
Exactly, like the keto diet versions that you mentioned earlier.
Right. And also where you could, other people can focus on the low net carbs, high protein type of aspects
go.
of it.
Right.
So it is adaptable. So with 4 yeses, it tells us that the keto diet is a trend because it's demand and health specific, driven by consumer demand. So yay.
I could
It's
see
a
that.
trend.
Well, I'm
It's
glad
not a
that
fad.
we answered our question for our podcast today. It is a trend, whether it's a little different from the original keto diet, if it's just focusing on lower net carbs, higher protein, better nutrition, exactly, healthier, higher fiber. And sometimes it can be kind of daunting for food scientists to formulate that. So that's why we have that fiber sim, dietary fiber.
It's like you don't have a magic bullet.
Well,
Come
it's
on.
actually a magic bullet of a combination of 3 ingredients. So a couple of our wheat protein isolates arise, and our fiber sim. It's RS4 modified wheat starch that is the dietary fiber. So, and that made, like the pizza today that I showed you guys. So it is possible. And so really fun to have you two here on our podcast.
Thanks for the
Great,
pizza.
our very first.
Yes, you're
I love the
welcome.
pizza.
In our lovely pod.
Yes, inner pod here in the middle of town. And also, we'll just see you guys next time on our next podcast.
Great.
Thank you.
MGP's food scientists are here to solve your culinary challenges. Contact us to discuss how we can help provide delicious solutions for you. Go to mgpingredients.com and click Contact Us.
This content is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as, nor is it a substitute for, professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding your diet, health, and/or medical condition.